there's often this presumption that you can learn from things, that things are malleable in your life. And this is something that, you know, I've seen a lot, and there is this emphasis in terms of people learning or entities learning, so improving with experience. Um, and actually, as somebody who's studied, so I study learning and I look at how things learn and improve over time. And this has been, a very strong field for me in terms of I've built my identity on this. Um, but here's the thing, as I've actually studied it and thought about it and thought about my own life, I, first of all, I can't identify the thing that I actually learn at, right? Like that's hard to know. Then all of a sudden one day, I could say I learned, right? Like that is very difficult and challenging to actually know. Um, that can be done in the classroom, but that is not a real environment. Um, that is not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily predictive of real life. On the other side that I think about is that there is a lot of things that are relatively static and you can't change those things. And if we come into the situation that we should be able to learn everything, and that's the sort of presumption that is based into a lot of culture, is that everything is malleable and you should be able to learn. Often that's actually not the case, right? Often there are things that are very strongly fixed, whether it's because of your culture, for example, that you're part of, um, you, characteristics that you have, like just characteristics that are very, very sharply distinctive, or DNA, like these things that we think um, that we actually overestimate, or we underappreciate those things too much, and those things are incredibly important. Um, that there are these things in our lives that actually don't change, and we can't learn them. This is one thing. It always really struck me as something interesting. So my undergrad degree was in engineering, and you do get taught that there are fundamental laws in physics that you can't really change, and they're pretty fixed. Given barring some things, but there are limits to what we can possibly do that we currently know of, right? And those things are pretty strongly fixed. And yet, with human beings and organizations, we often think that those everything is malleable, but the truth is it's not, right? And we have to, um, embrace some of those things. I think, like just being in the open, that yeah, there's lots of things that we just can't change. They're never, that, or in this moment, it's not that they can't change altogether. It's just that in the time scale that you're looking at, just can't change, right? And you may not want those particular things to change, right? So, for example, there is this assumption in economics that labor, for example, people can move around pretty easily, that work is not, that people can set up different businesses relatively easily and go to different places. But the truth is that's not true. Um, that there is strong location effects often, and you can't often just pick up and move and go someplace differently. It's often very challenging to do that, for not because of any real, like, hard law or anything like that, but people matter. The society, social, upbringing and all that kind of stuff matters. You want to be close to Mom and dad, you want to be close to your grandparents. Like those things really matter and they're pretty fixed. And for anybody that has moved away and does not live at um that has gone through the moving away and did that adventure, you realize it is actually pretty challenging. It's not easy to do it. Um, and it requires you to break a lot of things in your life that really never get, they're irreversible. And what's irreversible? They never get fixed, right? Those relationships may not never change, never go back to the way that they actually were. Um, and I want everybody to sort of be well aware that things are possible to change, but there's many things that don't. And now, what do we do with that, right? So this is where the thing that you have to change is embrace who you are and these traits or characteristics of who you are, or these things that some people would consider as flaws or whatever. You have to come down to just realizing that you're good enough, regardless of all of these things that are going on and the people wanting to perfect you and all that kind of stuff, but just acknowledging that you're just good enough, right? Like there are some things that you can change, yes, but there's lots of things you can't change. And so then you have to live within that. That's where you need to, this is where the sort of important change in my view is learning to accept yourself, learning to be okay with being flawed in some ways, learning to realize that sometimes things are just goofy, and that is okay. Right? That's where you take the step and you're like, well, that did not work out as planned. I'm just gonna keep going with something else, um, and that's okay. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.